Okay, so let the record show that this is the date and time for the scheduled hearing on a conditional use application by Mike Minnick for his plan known as the Glen
Minogue.
I'm
Bill is
sorry,
at Glen
Minogue plan of lots. Before we get into the formal hearing, we need to call the hearing to order, call the meeting to order. So I'll do that right now. Gwen, could you take roll?
Sure. President Dober,
Present.
Vice President Jones,
Present.
Commissioner Scholar,
Present.
Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Dara,
Present.
Solicitor Stone.
Here. Okay, so we have a quorum, and let me say before we start that the reason for our hearing tonight is to consider the application of Michael Minnick to build 2 single-family homes in the Weber's Corner zoning district. If you look at our recently adopted zoning ordinance, you will see that we have a district known as the Weber's Corner zoning district. One of the last-minute insertions that we made when we drafted the ordinance was we allowed, there was a request that we allow for single-family residential housing in Weber's Corner, but that it be permitted only as a conditional use, meaning that it would be subject to whatever conditions, reasonable conditions, I should say, the commissioners would choose to impose on that use. So it does require a hearing, and it does require a decision by the Board of Commissioners as to 2 things. One, whether the specific requirements or conditions of the ordinance have been met by the applicant, and we'll get into that in a minute. And 2, whether if the specific requirements of the ordinance have been met, which is the burden of the applicant, whether the board finds that the use is otherwise generally in the interest of the community and in the best interest of the community with respect to general welfare, safety, and things like that. So that's the reason for the hearing. The parties tonight are Mr. Minnick is here. I see him in the back of the room. I trust he will be presenting his case or making his presentation. Do you have, Mike, do you have counsel with you, or do you have your engineer?
You don't want.
Okay, so is there anybody here who actually is here to oppose the grant of the conditional use? Okay, so it'll be Mr. Minnick will be the only party in interest. He'll be presenting his case, and during the process, there will be an opportunity for anyone who chooses to. Obviously, tonight that won't be necessary to cross-examine Mr. Minnick, but also there will be an opportunity for the Board of Commissioners to ask questions during the presentation as well. Before we start, it is customary to enter into the record a number of what we call board exhibits, and so I'd like to do that now, save time later. The board exhibits are the proofs of advertising and publication, which we're required to do pursuant to the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, otherwise known as the MPC. And we have copies of those, right, Gwen?
Those are all the exhibits. So
Okay. And you said they were pre-marked?
there should be little yellow Post-its at the top that tell you what each page is.
Okay. So we'll start with the proof of advertising, which we'll mark as Board's Exhibit 1. The second is we're also required under the MPC to give notice by posting the property, and we'll mark the proof of posting as Board's Exhibit number 2. We are required to give notice to the applicant, and we'll mark that as Board's Exhibit 3. We have the application, the actual application itself for the conditional use. We'll mark that Board's Exhibit 4. Sure, the right one. Yes. We have the review of the application by the township engineer who is here tonight. Yep. We'll mark that Exhibit 5. The recommendation of the Planning Commission, any conditional use goes first to the Planning Commission for their consideration, and they make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. That recommendation letter is dated May 5th by the chairman of the Planning Commission, and we'll mark that Exhibit 6. The applicable section of the zoning ordinance itself is also important, and we'll mark that for the record as Board's Exhibit 7. Okay. And with that, we can open the hearing. If there is anybody who intends to testify during the course of the hearing tonight, please stand up and be sworn in by the court reporter.
You do swear, raise your right hand, you do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. My name is Michael Minock.
And I'll add before Mike starts that on the conditional use, and Mike, you can get into the whole plan itself, but only 2 of the proposed residences are actually located in the Weber's Corner district. So I just wanted to make that clear that the conditional use is only being applied for, only applies to the two proposed parcels in the Weber's Corner district. So go ahead, Mike.
I'm on the stage.
You're up.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I brought a plan with me that shows the village of the Glen Oak. It shows my home where I live, 1306 Glen Mitchell Road. It shows an additional 10 lots, 2 of which, lots 10 and 11, are within the confines of the Weber's Corner Village zoning district. And both of these lots are less than 1 acre, which is part of the requirement for the conditional use. Simple application for conditional use is that in the Article 10 of the zoning ordinance, Section 10.2.b.4 provides for the use of a single-family detached as a conditional use, and that's what I'm requesting. Simple is my presentation.
And there is one specific condition in the zoning ordinance as it pertains, again, specifically to the single-family dwelling condition, and that has to do with the lot size. Have you had a chance to look at that section?
Yes, I have.
And again,
I didn't reference that section, but I did mention that these 2 lots are less than 1 acre.
so they do comply with the specific conditions of the ordinance.
Correct.
Okay, and I can represent to the board that that is the only specific condition that that is required.
One other comment to be made, in the Weber's Corner Village District, this there was a conditional use granted already for the use of residential home. Earl Seiler, is that correct?
Yes, he did say usually.
So that's my case.
This is the time when the board is free to ask any questions. There's no objectors here and there's no cross-examination, so.
Assuming you get the necessary approvals, what's your anticipated timing of building on those lots in Weber's Corner?
Depends on the market. One, secondly, it depends on how I go through the next hurdle, which is Allegheny County and PDS. So I would like to move dirt shortly, which would be the beginning of whenever, as soon as I get approval. So
And how long would you estimate it would take you to actually build out?
again, depending on the market, I couldn't imagine more than 3 or 4 years. I could sell them all tomorrow if I wanted all the lots, but I chose not to sell them to a certain company.
Is this going to be similar in terms, that all the homes going to be architecturally similar?
Probably not. It'll be
Is it
it's
built-
a planned residential community, but it won't, I'm sorry, it's not a planned PRD, but it is, there will be a small homeowners association to maintain certain things, but it is open for people to come and,
It's a build to order,
Custom homes.
build to order?
yes, custom homes. And the other thing is the topography of the land wouldn't permit it to be all the same type of use, because this will be a ranch, these would be ranch homes here. And then there's the integral garage, and some of them would be attached garage, just because of the lay of the land.
So you're really selling the lots?
No, I'd be the builder as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we built Circuites Manor, we built
Oh,
thousands
I
of
know
homes.
you have, but,
So,
but they can bring their own builder as well.
not necessarily,
Oh, okay.
it's possible, but not,
They can bring their own design.
yeah, we're on architect, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, typically when we go into development, we'd like to maintain ownership of the lots and build the homes ourselves. It provides security for the other individuals that we build for, so that someone doesn't come in and build a house that doesn't fit the neighborhood or value, a lesser value.
You have an estimated price range for what you anticipate being built here?
Anywhere from 6 to 8 package.
Which would be what size, square footage wise?
My home is on Glen Mitchell is about 5,600 square feet total. So it'll be something probably less than that,
Okay.
or equal to that.
I'll note for the board that the planning commission considered this application at their last meeting and the meeting before. And as a result of the meeting on May 4th, the planning commission voted to recommend that the board approve the request to build the 2 single-family homes. But subject to the conditions of what you're going to consider next, which is the plan approval for the whole thing.
You said these 2 in Weber's Corner are going to be ranches? Is there a
No, they-
reason why?
The topography of the land is very flat. So it wouldn't, you could put a house with an integral garage, but then you're all the way upstairs, as opposed to having in this lake some flat and large lots. And I believe there's a market for a firm ranch type home,
Okay.
similar to the
Huge
Ridge.
market.
Yes, I would think there is. So that's one thing. Should we discuss the situation with the zoning variance with the sidewalks relative to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
there was-
are we keeping ourselves limited to the confines of the Weber's Corner question, or are we at the
Yes.
whole plan?
Well, right now, we're dealing specifically with Weber's Corner,
Okay.
the two dwellings in Weber's Corner and the conditional use. But I do believe there was a zoning variance that was relevant to the Weber's Corner conditional use.
I see.
Yes.
Okay,
And that was to request for the requirement of having sidewalks on 2 sides.
okay,
And we requested that we not be required to have them on both sides,
okay.
because the township ordinance called for it on one side. So we did get approval from the variance committee, zoning hearing board, excuse me, that we were permitted to be on one side alone. The other issue regarding Weber's Corners was the width of the road. The cartway was required to be 24 feet wide, and the R1 zoning required the cartway to be 20 foot wide. So we thought it would be onerous to have a 24 foot wide cartway and then choke it down to a 20 foot. So that was granted as well. And the final item was the third item that was listed is on this pond, which is on lot number 5. There was a variance requested to have that pond in the waterway and that area be permitted to be sold and not as an open, it will be maintained as an open space, but not a public open space. That lot will contain the pond and the putting green and the driving range and that type of thing. Very pretty little spot in Oglala Township right here.
So there would be a restrictive covenant recorded against that?
There's a easement for stormwater drainage, yes. And it shows the confines of the pond and also these waterways here. But that would be on this lot. It wouldn't be a public. It wouldn't be for public use.
Back to the width of the cartway.
Mhm.
As I understand it, you anticipate at some point having the road dedicated to the town.
That's correct.
If you reduce it to 20 feet as opposed to what the town normally does that have any impact on?
Actually, the township normally does the 20-foot cart path.
Okay.
It's the 24-foot because it was intended to be a commercial use zone. So that's why I had wider streets. So
Okay.
because we're choosing to, or we're hoping to do it all residential, that's why we felt it would be better to maintain the standard in the township as opposed to having a choked down road.
Okay.
For uniformity of viewscape, et cetera. And that does it for the variance issues.
This packet that we took home says that your water is going to be from the borough of Sewickley.
That was a mistake on the plan about 5 different times. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know why they didn't change it, but that's not correct. That's Aleppo Township. We made application there as well.
Good. Okay.
Water and sewer.
Water and sewer.
You also have your consulting engineer who happens to be here tonight as well. If you have any questions for the consulting engineer, it would be appropriate to ask that now too.
I don't know if my question is better now or at the plan approval stage, but my question that I have all along is the name of the road. And my concern is, it has nothing to do with your name being in the road. I just don't like the fact the road sounds so similar to Glen Mitchell Road. So I wonder if there's any flexibility in that at all.
Oh, Gwen sent me a letter saying we're not using that letter or that name because it was on 911. We're not using the name that was on the plan. If I represent the letter correctly.
It said, would you please consider that concern?
Oh, I will certainly consider it.
Okay.
I'm not married to the name.
Okay. And I don't care about the name of the complex. I just don't like having another road that sounds so similar to the other roads.
I don't have a name tonight. I talked to Gwen about that earlier today, and she said that wasn't necessarily critical to have that tonight. But I got the email, I believe, Friday last week.
We can make that a condition.
Yeah.
That's reasonable.
And the confusion really relates to the Glen part of it.
I thought it tied in nicely, but what I think doesn't necessarily have to mean anything here. So,
Well, that's not true.
well,
What you think means a lot. You're successful at doing what you do, and I take what you have to say to heart. I mean, really, I just,
But it doesn't comport with what your 911 would need.
Right.
So.
Well,
I
we
can
just
certainly
came
understand
off of a situation where two roads that sound alike, and that's why we just thought it would save a lot of trouble.
Like I said, I'm not married to that concept of the name.
and how about the other things that were in the email, the distance to the tennis court?
I
You
started
considered
planning
that?
some plantings back there. I can say that I've lived there for 13 years, and I've never had a problem with you guys' manner the noise, except for when they do the karaoke nights.
Uh-huh.
And the speakers are pointed to my house, and you can hear it with the windows closed, and it was unbearable. But I didn't complain.
Uh-huh.
That was
That's enough.
one singer in particular. You know. We all know who she was, I guess. But anyway, there hasn't been a big issue. The kids scream, and I have kids equal them, so or even The other issue, should we deal with that at the second issue about the fill?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we could, I mean, if there's no other testimony, no other witnesses, no other evidence to introduce into the record, we could probably close the record on the conditional use hearing. My suggestion is, if the board is inclined to make a decision tonight, that we go into a quick executive session and maybe talk about what conditions you would find that you would want to impose and whether they would be reasonable.
Let me just, I know the town engineer has reviewed this and has signed off on what's proposed, but are any other conditions that you think would be appropriate?
From a zoning standpoint, I think they've addressed everything in your ordinance. There are a couple waiver requests that will be, tied with the approval that we can talk about at the appropriate time.
Right.
I don't think they necessarily reflect the zoning concern.
But for this action item, you don't see the need for anything else?
No.
Okay.
So that said, the record's closed on the hearing, and I suggest the board adjourn into a quick executive session to consider its decision. The alternative is, you don't have to make a decision tonight. You can,
No,
Or are there other action items that we might want to talk about in executive session?
yeah, that's a good idea. So yeah, there is something else in executive session that we want to talk about, but again, I think that can be done pretty quickly.
but are you talking about the executive session at the end of the meeting?
We could do it all at once. But if we do it all at once, it's going to extend the
Public
meeting for
So let's-
Mr. Minnick.
Let's go into executive session now and get this part out.
Do you need a copy of the plan or the detailed, I have a detailed version of the plan.
We
We're
have
gonna
to-
go in the
we got-
back
we got-
and
yeah,
we'll
we got a
have
good one.
people leave.
No, we'll go in the back.
Go
Yeah,
in the
we'll-
back, you stay. Oh, yeah.
All right, so Mr. Solicitor, do you have another hearing for us?
What's, it's not actually a hearing, it's a, in your public meet, you're back in your public meeting, and in your public meeting, you're going to consider the application for a subdivision and plan approval.
So we're finished with the hearing.
The
You have to do
hearing's
anything-
closed and the hearing, yes.
Okay, so then with that said, I call to order our public meeting. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's have a roll call, please.
President Gilbert,
Present.
Vice President Jones,
Present.
Commissioner Scholar,
Present.
Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Darrow,
Present.
Solicitor Stone,
Here,
Manager Patterson. Here.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Let's start with a discussion of our minutes of the workshop meeting of May 9th, 2016.
Move that we approve the minutes of the workshop for the meeting on May 9.
I second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Well, okay, I'll follow the agenda. Let's have a report on public safety, please.
Chief couldn't make it, so he sent me instead, so sorry.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
We had 8 alarms for the month of April. There were 4 fraud reports, a couple, or 3 harassment by communications, 1 ordinance violation, 1 suspicious circumstance, responded to disabled vehicle, a couple fire assists, called the road department out one time, assisted somebody with a lockout of a vehicle, assisted on 11 different medical or ambulance calls, want the trees or wires down, 2 animal complaints, a couple traffic accidents, 911 hang-up call, checked the welfare, and issued 7 citations for a total of 48 incidents for the month of April.
What were the fraud incidents?
Get a lot of, some of the people actually were guys coming and saying that, calling on the phone, saying that their relative need money, someone tried to open a Chase card, things like that, and got it, and they took reports for it.
What was the ordinance violation?
Abandoned vehicle. That's what they abandoned vehicles that fall in the ordinances. We were checking for those throughout the township.
Anybody else have any other questions? Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fire department? No report? Emergency management? Public works?
I'm just some topsoil along McCoy, South McCoy from the past winter. And cutting grass throughout the township right now, and we're just completely cutting back trees along the roads in the township and doing maintenance on the equipment. We're busy here.
Busy time of year.
Any questions?
Any issues?
No issues?
Any needs?
No needs?
Good.
I saw you guys out there working on those trees. Boy, that was a big job.
Yeah, 2 weeks it took us to.
Anyway, just a comment, to have a professional service come in would cost us tenfold. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Communications, I'm trying very quickly to pull up an email that I received with respect to our chicken ordinance. This is from David Cranston Sr.
Oh, Mr. Cranston.
Matt, I listened to the part of your meeting, and I think the idea of a chicken ordinance is not a good idea. It seems to me that it falls under the heading of too much government meddling in our individual lives. Just because one person complains about a rooster, it seems over the top to pass an ordinance that affects many others. After all, we are a rural community. It would seem to me that if I was being annoyed by a neighbor's rooster crowing, I'd ask my neighbor if he would do something about it. David Cranston. And that's all I have. Planning and
At
zoning.
least he didn't say shoot the rooster.
What's that?
At least he didn't say shoot the rooster.
I move to approve the villas at Glen Minot subdivision and land development plan subject to the conditions outlined by the solicitor.
Second,
Well, wait, you want to take these out of order? We just talked about the conditional use. You're talking about the plan, yeah.
I move to grant the conditional use approval for the construction of 2 single-family homes in the Weber's Corner Village District as part of the villas at Glen Minot land development plan.
second,
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's take a roll call vote, please.
President Dobler,
Yes.
Vice President Jones,
Yes?
Commissioner Scholar,
Yes,
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Darrow.
yes,
I just want to I think you want to add one thing on that motion, so someone may want to offer a friendly amendment, and that is that it be subject to any and all conditions imposed on the plan, subdivision and plan approval, which is for the entire subdivision plan.
Good point.
move that we amend the motion that we just passed to include a condition that the approval is subject to any conditions imposed pursuant to the approval of the subdivision plan itself.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. So then let's turn to what's first on our agenda here, the motion to approve the villas at Glen Minogue subdivision and land development plan subject to the conditions outlined by the solicitor. What are those conditions that are outlined on the plan approval, Harlan?
Okay, so the conditions, and probably we should make sure that whatever plans and drawings that you have, like, are in the record, and that we make them part of the record. And we want to also make sure that the county recommendations are made part of the record, and that the engineer's comments are also made part of the record. So I think we have copies of all those, and we can do that at the conclusion of the hearing. But to answer your question, the specific conditions are, A, that all the conditions of approval for the conditional use to construct the 2 single-family homes in Weber's Corner zoning district are complied with. B, compliance with the HRG engineering review letter dated April 27th of 2016. That was the one I was just referring to. Compliance with the Allegheny Department of Economic Development review letter dated April 4th, 2016. D, a developer's agreement prepared by the township solicitor. That's standard. E, evidence of availability of water and sewer service from the Aleppo Township Authority. I think you probably already have that, Mike.
I don't think we have paperwork for that.
But we'll want that. F, an operation and maintenance agreement for stormwater management. And I think that's probably included already within the plan. All construction to be completed within, and I left it blank. I mean, it's up to you guys what you think a reasonable completion date would be. But again, 2 years is not unusual. Market conditions being what they are, might want more, but that's up to you guys. Installation of a sound barrier around recreational areas, I added that. And no use of the prefix Glen in reference to streets in the plan. In addition, we want to add a general condition that there be compliance with all variances and zoning approvals that have already been granted, that there's compliance with all other local ordinances, compliance with all federal, state, county, and township laws, and obtaining all necessary federal, state, county, and local permits. Those are just standard boilerplate conditions that we put on or that I always recommend on all plan approvals.
Disapproval.
And that's it. That would be, those would be the conditions.
And the name of the road, right?
Yeah.
I said.
Oh, you did, I'm sorry.
I said
I was
that
busy.
you had to drop no use of the prefix Glen in reference to any streets in the plan.
So what happens, let's say we fill in the blank with time to complete.
Yeah.
And then the time expires and the construction of the build out of the whole development isn't complete. What happens?
The condition isn't satisfied and the plan has to be reapplied for. There's a reapplication process.
May I speak to that?
Yeah, sure, Mike.
That's not necessarily customary in our experience. We've done developments in Ross Township and Cranberry Township and many other areas, and they're definitely bigger plans. But the situation is, once it's a lot on a plan, it's a lot. It can be built on subsequent. However, the development work would be done prior and completed and guaranteed, and we have bond issues that we would place, so that work should be required to be done by a timeframe. But I would say that the lots, if I don't sell lot number 12 or 10 by 2 years from now, to come back in here and redo all the things would be reasonable fair to you or me. Why would you guys go through it again?
Right, well, I wasn't thinking so much of the plan conditions, I was thinking of the subdivision.
So the subdivision work would be done
Is
in
done, the
3 months.
subdivision, yeah, the subdivision isn't lost. It would be the development plan itself, which would have to be,
that would all be
Well,
done in
I'll tell you one of my concerns, Mike. I mean, there's, what do you have, 3 or 4 lots on Rockledge that are quite unsightly, and nothing's been done about them for more than 10 years.
Well, I can speak to that issue when you're ready.
I just don't want to see us approve something that leaves something that's sort of half done and then left to grow wild.
We were precluded from working on those 3 lots with litigation in the township. And I was actually started a job, applied for a building permit, and 40 days later, the township said you can't have it. By the law, I had the right to take that permit because within 30 days, the township had to act, and they didn't. I didn't pursue it legally, but the fact was I was going to continue to build, and I was precluded from doing
So
so.
all those issues have been resolved for a while, haven't they?
Since November last year. Yeah, and I chose not to, I wanted to get a spec started this year, but didn't get it done yet. But we're definitely planning to do it. We have the right to build on those lots. We will do that. So we cut the grass back so far, and someone, and I don't know who it is, on Rockledge has been cutting it for us. And it's a mystery person, I don't know who it is, but they've actually been cutting the grass there. So, but there is a foundation that's dug out, and that's why it's dug out like
Which
that.
is not particularly
So-
attractive.
So Mike, so I'm clear. So the roads, the storm sewers, the sidewalks, all be in soon.
After approvals from all the groups, I will go forward with the plan and with the work.
Right.
And that should be done. I can't imagine more than 3 months to
Yeah.
a little bit of dirt that needs to be moved.
So that's short term.
Yes.
Lot number 10 might be sold in 6 years. Might be sold in 3 years.
Yes, I intend to sell them all as quickly as I can, naturally.
Sure.
So, but anyway,
and by the way, whatever you decide as far as the build out deadline, that would also be included in your developer's agreement.
yeah, which we have to work on, obviously.
Right.
So, to jump the gun a little bit, people are
So
asking.
so for purposes of timing for your build out, what is it that you'd like us to consider?
I would say 2 years for the build out of the infrastructure. The build out of the plan would be left open, is what I would say. That's only reasonable and fair. That's the way it's been done over many townships and in this township.
And you're in agreement with that?
I'm fine with that.
So, changing the subject a little bit, but there's something was brought up in the letter from Gwen was the grading, of the issue, grading, Isour or whatever in this area, across from McCoy.
There was the discussion of the various dumping areas along Glen Mitchell.
Gotcha.
And you were asking if it was going to be done with this plan. I'd let this plan speak for itself. These are the elevations shown. This is how it's going to be, and it'll be done within that 3-month period or that construction phase period. This will be established. All the erosion and control sediment issues will be addressed at that time. And this layout is exactly what will be there within that short period of time.
Again, the question really goes to, is there parts of this property or your property where, whether you want to call it, there's been dumping or storage or?
Oh, sure. I get permits every time from the township. I've got permits that when this fill was placed by the sewer contractor, I have a permit on
Okay.
file. I don't know what the township has on the records, but I have records of all the permits that were issued for me when I was building homes on Rockledge, up on, in fact, the home that you're living in, the dirt came down here too, and I had a permit for it.
But we're not concerned about, we're not trying to get to the bottom of dirt. We're trying to get to the bottom of like appliances that are out there that are in the,
There might be a couple of recycling issues I have down there, but generally, I have a trailer that's down below that I have some pipe on
okay.
and some issues like that. But appliances, I don't know what you're talking about there.
There's something on your property.
Well,
I
you said
thought
some
it's
garbage
a little
cans,
bit
maybe?
too- No. In the back. You don't see it as much.
You don't see,
now.
well, with the leaves out, you don't see
Yeah.
it, but before the leaves were out, it was pretty visible. Yours isn't the only one. There's 2 or 3 other places coming up the hill where this seems to
Well,
be.
I respect your thought
Yeah,
process.
I mean,
and-
it's not horrible, but it's something. I want to say it's behind the house, maybe by McCoy in the back.
May not be horrible, but why is it necessary?
Why do I have some pipes down there? Because I'm in the construction business. And I have them on a trailer, stacked up on a trailer, way away from the road, way away from anybody's property line.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, but I think she's addressing other very unsightly parts that. look
I
at
think once
things
you
that are dumped,
start
not
building,
stored.
that's probably.
Look at things that are dumped, not stored.
Where's the, on this,
Dump that I know of down there, except for dirt.
No,
and
this is
stone.
not dirt.
yeah, this is definitely not.
I have,
dirt.
down in this lower area, I have a construction trailer that's parked there. Now on the trailer, I have some garbage cans that I use in construction. There's no dumping of trash down there by me. I will say, if the policeman's here, he can look at the police reports and show you that there's been 12 different times that other residents have dumped down there and the people have been dealt with, but not by me. No trash down there at all.
But where you had your finger here, is this, show me on this map that you've got here, where that big area is that looks like a dog run right now.
Right, that's.
Where's the-
That's
where
right
is
here.
that?
It was a dog run.
It was a dog run.
Right. Right now, there's bees down here.
There's
There's
what?
in the back, there's some bees. A gentleman drove by my house about 3 weeks ago and said that he's getting kicked out of somewhere in the Heights, and he asked me
Uh-huh.
if he could put some bees down here.
Yeah, I
Okay.
saw the cage.
Yeah, so there are
thing,
boxes in
yeah.
the back here. And
But that's still in the clearing that's
in the wide open field.
that
That's
used to be a
This
dog
is
run.
where, this is where the dog run
So
was.
there's sort of like neat rows of boxes that are
Mhm.
set up on the ground. Those are
Yeah.
bees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's.
Okay, but this is,
Yes.
this is further, the
Yes.
They had
Yeah.
the baseball, they had.
the area that we're concerned about is further down.
Is it down
downhill
from
of that.
there?
Of
So
where?
that might not even be on his
Well,
property.
there's an area
I
where
don't think
Sewickley
it's-
has got stuff.
Yeah, that's way down.
Where's,
The
Where's-
dog run is right in this area here. Or it used to be,
where
Sorry.
is Weber Road on this?
way down here.
Way down here. See, I think that the thing we're thinking about is further downhill
further.
of him.
Mhm.
I don't think it's him.
Yeah, it's the one we notified Swiftly about.
No, I
No?
know.
No,
There's a
no,
second
that's
one.
way down, that's way down. There are 2.
There's one just up of Weber. But I guess
That
it's
would be,
not.
that would have to,
That's the
Oh.
bees. That's the
No, I don't think
bees.
it is the bees.
Mhm.
the bees just went in a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
And they
The
caught-
bees are
they got me
orderly.
good
I mean,
about it.
Where were they playing ball?
Right,
In
right
that
where that is,
field, yeah.
yes. Yes, now, right relative to this, where
Maybe
the,
it's your trailer, I'm thinking.
I would say that's the only thing it could be, but there's a
Maybe.
construction trailer
And
back in
then-
there.
But people have done stuff there before?
Dirt.
Not
And then
dirt.
residents have been
Yeah.
caught dumping trash and stealing
Maybe that's-
backhoe buckets and all kinds of things. Like I said, there's police reports on file.
That
but I don't
seems
dump
to
trash
me
there,
to be
guaranteed.
the location.
Gwen, maybe we should, Friday morning, maybe we should get in the car and drive down there
That sounds like a fun field trip.
and look
Well,
at this.
Sure.
Can if you like, but like I said, it's
Not you, I'm just saying,
down the road.
suffice to say, any fill or appliances or anything that's on this property is gonna be removed when this is developed, right?
Certainly, yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a first-class development. It's not gonna be, Weber Road.
Right.
So, because there's a couple of houses there.
The going back to Dan's point a minute ago, in terms of guarantees for completion, as part of the developer's agreement, he'll be required to post performance bonds, completion bonds, and so the whole job will be bonded for that purpose too.
Yeah, and
So that's 2 years?
I think the standard is 100, I think the law requires 180 days. There's a difference for the performance bond and the completion bond. I don't know the exact, I think it's a year and 2 years, but whatever the maximum is, you'll get it as part of the developer's agreement.
so is that date or is that timeframe decided this evening? Or is that in the developer's agreement?
It'll be in the developer's agreement and
Yeah.
it's statutory.
Okay, well, the issue is that I'm not certain how soon I'm gonna get going on this because the winter starts hitting, I'm not gonna be moving dirt. And therefore, I would want the clock to tick before I start. I have a chance, I don't mind the clock ticking, but if it's a short window, that would hamper me in terms of getting this done within that window. So, again, if it's, because I don't know how long it's gonna take with Allegheny County to get approval. But it shouldn't be, it only could be 6 months.
Could be 180-day minimum.
Yeah.
With the conservation district?
It's already been applied for, but
I think the way the permit or the approval is written, though, the developer won't have approval till all the conditions are met, and all of the permits are one of those conditions, so the clock wouldn't start. Ideally, you're signing the plan, you're signing the developer's agreement, those are your last conditions, and the clock would start at that point.
From the date of the developer's agreement.
But okay, so if that's September, it's in November, or whatever it is, it's,
So
if it's under 8 days, it's kind of.
can you say 2 years from beginning March 1 of following the time that he gets all of his approvals?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Um,
I'm not wedded to March 1, but it seems to me you can start moving dirt in March, can't you?
Some years, this year, yeah, last year, last winter, not too easy.
Yeah.
But, I have another issue that is part of the county, if we can move on to that one. The county, I was at Strictly Heights Borough, a very small portion of my ground is in Strictly Heights Borough. And, this is the township and the borough line. So a corner of my house and my mailbox is in Strictly Heights Borough. So I had to go to Strictly Heights Borough to get approval. They are acting on it tonight as well, to wash their hands of it, essentially. They're not gonna be involved in the development, that's what I understand they wanna do. So on this plan, I'm gonna have to have, I have to contact the county. So there's a lady down at the county that has contact to get the exact wording from the county as to what they want to say, because the typical area where you'd stamp it, and a community would stamp it, is not what they want us to do. And that's not what Strictly Heights wants to do either. So I will present that once we present it to the board for signatures. That will be on there and it'll be done by Strictly Heights Borough first.
So you're gonna, so Strictly Heights Borough on the plan to submit to the county?
Correct.
And then you'll submit that to county development like Kay Pierce or whoever it is?
I think that is who it is, yes.
Sounds
Kay Pierce, yes. But I need to get the wording from her because I spoke with your wife about what the wording, and she didn't know, she had suggested I contact them.
Sounds reasonable.
Can we make the restriction on the road name actually more comprehensive? Don't specify Glen,
Glenn,
but
yeah,
just say
yeah,
reasonably distinguishable from Glenn Mitchell?
Yeah.
Can't be Jones.
Yeah,
Something, because if it was Glenn Peters.
Right.
No big deal.
Trump Plaza.
So something a little more comprehensive in general.
well, can't we make it something that's mutually agreed on between the developer and the township at a later date?
Yeah.
So,
All right.
I'm gonna
Fine.
put
Yeah.
mutually agreed upon to reasonably distinguish
Yes.
it
Fine.
from other township roads.
And actually, there was dozens of names we came up with, and that was the only one, we weren't satisfied with any of them, but we left that on there, so.
Okay, is that language okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds like, yeah.
And the build out language will be 2 years from March 1st of the year following the grant of final approval.
Right.
Okay, I got that. And then the build out language will be 2 years from March 1st of the year following the grant of final approval. Right. Okay, I got that. And the build out language will be 2 years from March 1st of the year following the grant of final approval. Okay.
there a motion?
Are there variances we have to address?
Waiver requests.
You have, yeah, you do, I have those in separate motions.
Okay,
So that'll be your next motion. Call it motion 2.
So, hope I get this one right. I move to approve the Villas at Glen Minnow subdivision and land development plan subject to the conditions as outlined by the solicitor.
No, you just did that.
No, I did the second one. I did the conditional use.
He's right. He's right.
I thought we just approved the plan, the subdivision.
No, we did the
They
conditional.
just
We did-
discussed it, but you didn't.
We didn't take a vote.
Sorry,
Right. So
you asked me what the conditions.
correct.
right.
Sorry.
So I move to approve the Villas at Glen Minnow subdivision and land development plan subject to the conditions outlined by the solicitor.
Second,
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Do we all understand exactly what those conditions are? Does anybody want to hear them again? Nope? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Take a roll call vote, please.
President Vogler?
Yes.
Vice President Jones?
Yes?
Commissioner Scholar?
Yes,
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Darrow?
yes.
Motion carries.
You know, before we move on, two housekeeping things. Number one, are you amenable, are you agreeable to those conditions?
Certainly.
All right. So I will prepare an approval letter that'll lay out the conditions. You'll have to sign off on it. You have to get it back to me. I'm supposed to get that out within so many days of the decision. I'm going to ask you if you're willing to waive whatever deadlines there might be for my getting it to you, and then just get it back to me as quickly as possible.
Do you need a signature on the waiver?
No.
Okay.
All right?
That's reasonable, yeah, sure.
So I'll put it all together and I'll get it out to you within the next couple of days, maybe a week at the most. And then if you just sign it and return it to me, then we'll have the subdivision and the land development approved.
Okay, and then with respect to the developer's agreement, that will be worked on mutually?
Yes.
Or is there?
I've got
boilerplate?
I've got a boilerplate developers agreement. I'll send it out to you in a draft form and we can go from there.
I need this here. Thank you very much.
Hey, Mike, welcome to the neighborhood.
Thanks.
Whoa.
Oops.
We still have 3 other motions on your waiver request, so you might want to stick around for
I'll
that.
stay out of the way. Thank you.
All right, so let's keep, so the next thing is a motion to approve the planning commission's recommendation to grant the applicant's requested waiver of section 581C, requiring that pre-development peak flow rates be calculated by using heavily forested cover type for all areas. And I don't know what that means, but that's why Ben is here.
That is a stormwater concern. What those typically do, when you do stormwater, your pre-development, you calculate that before you build anything, and you compare it to your post-development. What your ordinance requires is kind of a false conservative approach, that it is taking that target of your pre and making it harder to hit. And then, so you would have to detain more water, control more water to hit that goal. So what the developer is stating by looking at the drainage area, and they did a true drainage area of everything upstream that is pretty much developed. By looking at that as a forest, there wasn't much water coming off of it in a theory. When they try to recalculate that condition with their development, there was so much detention that it basically left the whole property unbuildable. They had suggested following the state and county guidelines for their MPDS permit, which still assumes 20% of that was whatever was impervious, roads, houses, et cetera, be considered meadow, which still brings that pre-development down to make it a harder target to hit, but not as hard as your ordinance required. I have no objection to that. I think it's reasonable, and it falls in line with the other state guidelines and permits that they're applying for. So the waiver request, I take no exception to that request.
And I
he's
would,
the expert.
and I would add that was the recommendation of the planning commission.
Okay.
All right, so you want to vote on,
Is anybody to make that motion?
Got to make it?
I'm not trying that one, unless I can say so moved.
I'll repeat it.
Well, you can,
Oh, it's a complicated.
you've got it, do you have it?
Um,
Go ahead.
It's a motion to approve the planning commission's recommendation to grant the applicant's request for a waiver of section 581C, requiring that pre-development peak flow rates be calculated using heavily forested cover type for all areas. So it's a waiver of that requirement.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? I don't understand it, so I'm going to vote no, but I'm not voting no because I don't want people to want it to approve. I just don't understand it. So, any other discussion?
Reasonable.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. Motion carries.
All right, and the second waiver request, the motion would be a motion to approve the planning commission's recommendation to grant the applicant's requested waiver of section 513(1)(b)(8), which requires all detention facilities involving an earth embankment to be designed with a minimum freeboard of 1 foot between the peak emergency spillway design flow elevation and the top of the embankment. Ben, you want to address that?
Even more clear than the first one.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, so to manage the stormwater, they are proposing a large basin, which is very typical of what you'd see in these developments. In those basins, there is a emergency spillway typically
Which
designed.
basin needs to be there? I see 2 waterways.
This
Okay.
is existing pond, this is their basin.
Okay, gotcha.
As these fill up, the ordinance requires it to be emergency spillway. So for whatever reason, they can't go out faster than it's coming in. It is released in a controlled manner. Given the topography of their site, there is no good place to discharge that water that doesn't impact the roadway. So they're requesting that they do not have to install a typical earth emergency spillway. However, we had them redesign it and reevaluate it to include 2 drainage structures that show in the 100-year storm that it can safely discharge that water without overtopping and impacting the surrounding properties and roadways. So it still meets the intent of your ordinance. However, a typical embankment would just show a lower portion in the berm, like a dam, that allows that water to come out at a controlled rate that's protected from erosion to prevent a failure. They're showing that they have enough capacity to hold it and discharge it through this structure at this structure in an emergency. So it still serves the same purpose, but conveys it out the system instead of discharging it over the land, which may wash out a road or wash out a property.
And taking into consideration those 2 systems, where does it go from there? If you do have a 100-year storm, or
It still goes down in the existing drainage channel where it goes now.
okay,
So
Those structures are made of,
concrete
okay.
with a steel grate on top with holes drilled in the side, and that controls how much water comes out and at what rate. And that was their stormwater model, shows that as they have it configured, that it'll safely convey that without overtopping.
And the maintenance of that retention basin and release becomes a homeowners association responsibility.
That's my intention, yes.
So, any other questions on that?
Well, Ben, in general,
Yes.
if I get this right, by asphalting and building houses, you have disturbed the property's ability to absorb stormwater.
Correct.
And
Including
therefore,
grading, it may come off faster.
and therefore the first variance and this variance are related to that,
Correct.
which is why you calculate what it is now, you calculate what's anticipated, and you design therefore.
Correct. And the basin, to oversimplify it, that is your bathtub. If your drain gets plugged, where does it go? Does it spill out over to your floor, or does it go up through the overflow? This is the emergency overflow. Typically, it's graded into a berm that allows it to come out in a controlled manner. There's no place there to do that. That doesn't cause an impact to something else, so they put in a secondary drain as a backup, which shows that it won't overflow.
And the county will also review this.
Correct.
Is it DEP or
It is the County Conservation District and possibly DEP.
because the MPDS
Correct. Is
Is
stormwater permit, is DEP.
DEP. Right.
So you're asking for permission to put in this cement pipe that's gonna go
No,
under,
these pipes are always there. This is like an inlet in a road
okay,
that sticks up in the air.
okay.
And that
So it'll
has-
sit above the water. level.
Correct. And that has
Okay.
holes in the side. So as the water comes up, it'll go through those holes at different rates. That controls how much water comes off the site. As this
Gotcha.
thing over tops those holes, it can't get out faster. It'll go in the top of this. And if those holes are blocked or this gets plugged, it comes and goes into that one.
Gotcha.
So they have a backup system. This pipe here is taking the water as it comes down the roadway.
Yeah.
And brings it back into the pond.
This is an inlet.
Correct.
Gotcha. And so where is it going now? It's just taking it then,
Correct. It's going to take it back into this bypass pipe and take it back to the channel, which is coming down.
this stream.
As it comes now, it comes down through here, roughly. They're not going to pipe this. And all the storm water except for this inlet and this cutoff swale, which is cutting water off from up above, will go past the site. So you have clean water coming down, get it around the site so you don't flood these houses out.
Gotcha.
Everything coming off the houses in the road comes to the street, gets in these, goes into the basin, and then comes out and goes back down to the existing channel that it goes to now.
And this is just the stream that goes right down along Glen Mitchell Road now.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay.
You should have started with the bathtub metaphor. That made a lot more sense when you got there.
I try to sound technical and I was simplified.
Yeah. All right.
So moved.
I want to read that.
I move that we
Yeah, read.
adopt the planning commission's recommendation to grant the variance from section 5.13.1.b.8.
Second.
So motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Now, there was one requested waiver that the planning commission is not recommending that you grant, and that had to do with sidewalks in the plan, not sidewalks outside, but sidewalks.
I'm sorry, can we have one conversation, please? It's very hard to pay attention when there's talk.
This had to do with a requirement that there be sidewalks on one side of the road inside the plan.
Okay.
And that's also a section of your subdivision and land development ordinance. It's section 481B. So the motion there would be motion to accept the planning commission's recommendation to deny the applicant's requested waiver of section 481B, which requires installation of sidewalks in the plan. So you're denying the requested waiver.
481B, well,
481B requires.
we should have a motion first before we discuss this. Is anybody making that motion?
I make a motion to deny the waiver.
Thank you. Second, anybody second?
Second.
Motion and a second. 481B requires sidewalks on both sides or on one side?
One side.
Okay. And you don't want to put any sidewalks in at all?
That was the original.
So that's the request now, is to not put any sidewalks in. And
Planning
assuming,
commission did not
correct.
like that.
So assuming that you don't get the waiver from 481B, what's the next step? What's the move?
You approve with the original plan, specification, the requirements that I'd have to put in.
On one side?
That's correct.
And
Are you saying that right?
And I mean, give me your pitch why you don't think that you should have sidewalks.
Oh, no, sidewalks.
What's that? Just because it costs more money?
It doesn't cost the developer more money, it costs the home builders. Because the home builder has built it for the person, and they add that charge to the community. But I'm just not a big fan of sidewalks myself, but whatever the board says it has to do, I have to do.
It doesn't, I mean, requiring sidewalks does not scrap the plan, right? It's not unbuildable without the sidewalks.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, there was actually multiple reasons why we wouldn't want the sidewalks.
Well, tell me what they are. I mean,
Well, for instance, the size of this pond is absolutely huge. And it's, the reason it's huge is because you have to get evaporation and because of the water that's coming down. But back to the issue about why it would be this pond is bigger because we already included it in the calculations, the fact that we weren't gonna get away without putting sidewalks in. So doesn't seem like much, but this pond is so big already, that little sidewalk, 4 feet times 400 feet or whatever it is, comes out to a number that multiplies the size of this pond
I got you.
because it's runoff.
Right.
So that has been calculated into this plan because we didn't want to go and not calculate it and come back and you say, hey,
Back,
that's
right.
not going to work.
Right.
Because of all the reasons why, and then we have to start over again.
Okay.
Because we've recalculated that plan this thing 5 times. So that was one thing, one reason why.
Why did the planning commission deny your request?
One gentleman in particular didn't like the idea about having sidewalks because some person got killed in Surface Manor. That's why. I think that's why.
It was one of the things that was brought up.
Yeah.
I was explaining, the planning commission said that if the ordinance requires it, they didn't see a compelling reason not to require.
And I guess my question to you is, do you have a compelling reason?
Just we thought it was a safety issue too. If, for instance, kids walking down to the Glen Mitchell, they're not allowed to walk on the street, but if they're allowed to walk on the sidewalk, if they walk all the way to Glen Mitchell Road, that's not a safe thing. So Ben suggests we stop the sidewalk one side of this driveway with one side of the driveway, so we come up around here and down there. It's not a big issue. It's not a critical issue to me.
The sidewalk is not a critical issue.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not the way your ordinance is written is if pedestrian use is anticipated, and I don't see people using these sidewalks to go out to Glen Mitchell for this little bit of a road. The sidewalks can be on this side of the road. 2 of these houses aren't going to have them out of the 11 in the development. There's no sidewalks up here. So
If you had school children living in the houses, would they likely have to get picked up on Glen Mitchell, or would the school bus come down the road?
Who knows?
Boy, if he knew the answer to that, he'd be buying lottery tickets.
They don't come down the
That's
corner.
right. It'll
Well,
come-
I would expect it would just,
They're gonna
kids would have to walk.
That's
To-
true,
to-
they may
Yeah.
have to walk to.
Harlan, should we disagree with the planning commission's recommendation? What's the procedure?
Nothing.
No, you just,
We can
The
do whatever
planning-
we can
The
do. with it.
planning commission's recommendation is purely a recommendation.
You would grant the waiver.
You would grant it. And you have.
but the motion that's on the table right now is denying the waiver. So the vote that's going to be taken first, and if you want to grant the waiver, then
Say no.
you vote against the denial of the waiver, and then you see if another motion.
Well, I think the argument too is you go into the manor, there's no sidewalks, and that's always been an issue
Yeah.
there. And I think you're right, if the school bus is gonna stop on Glen Mitchell Road, and there are children, they're gonna have to walk to Glen Mitchell to catch a school bus.
So the downside to the homeowner is added expense, the sidewalk, added expense to the retention pond.
Hmm.
And
But the retention pond is already spec.
no, but it'll be smaller.
That's already
well, it
been,
could have been smaller. But
It'll
we
be
didn't-
smaller because the runoff will be different.
No, but it's spec now. It's already done.
Well, that's based on the fact that we didn't expect it to be able to get out, not do the sidewalks.
But if the sidewalks weren't there, the flow.
But he's not going to redo it now.
right, he
He's stuck it
figured
for
it
the
in,
sidewalk.
he figured it in.
And then the other downside that you're bringing up is the potential hazard of having a sidewalk right out to the road.
That's one thing we thought of, yes.
Okay, and the upside of sidewalks is what?
Having it right out to the road, so that the kids
Okay.
have to catch the
Yes.
school bus.
So it's a downside and.
Less grass to cut.
Good,
More
I
snow to
like
shovel.
that.
If you were in Success
Sorry,
Manor and
sorry.
you're a resident there, they don't pay for the mulch anymore because they don't want to put it in the budget. So then putting sidewalks in and replacing sidewalks probably wouldn't be a nice item. in the
No, it never
budget
happened.
either. So
So the upside is the same as the downside. So flip of a coin. What other upside is there to the sidewalk?
Well, if you got dog walkers, it gives them a place to walk their dog without being in the street.
Yes, yes.
Kids have a place to play
Sense
if you
of
have kids that want to
community.
play.
Gets
Bicycles
kids
off the road.
streets, yeah.
Yeah, almost
It
any
makes
other
it look like a
recreational use
neighborhood, I
should be off the road.
All right.
Any public safety aspect to sidewalks, plus or minus?
It's the same thing. I mean, you start putting state sidewalks in, some people are gonna use them, some people aren't. I mean, we have sidewalks we got a whole walkway through the township park that when all the runners run on the main road, all the cars have to drive around it. So, I mean, it's all depending on what they're gonna use them. I mean, like you said, it is, if you're gonna have a road, you're gonna have a sidewalk that's gonna walk right after Glen Mitchell. You really wanna, have, that they all suddenly come to the end. I mean, some of the towns in Ohio Township, we have Franklin Park has sidewalk ordinance. Sidewalks go right to where Ohio Township does not, and they'll sit and walk right in somebody's yard. So, I mean, some people are really up about it, some aren't. I mean, there's not one on Weber, and some of that road is pretty, I don't know, it's publicly, I mean, obviously, is it better to have people walking the sidewalk? Absolutely.
Ben, do you have an opinion? Common sense opinion, not engineering.
Common sense opinion, I think, is personal preference. We had this discussion in planning commission. If that sidewalk were to end up around some sort of benches or something off of Glen Mitchell, but near the detention facility where, my kids could catch the bus, my wife would be all for it. I think it would be a seller if done right with some nice landscaping. I also see the point where you're not gonna have a trail system that these are gonna connect to other communities or other developments in your community. And you don't obviously want to connect it to Glen Mitchell because the grades are bad and there's probably never going to be sidewalks there either. The other question is the precedence. If you let this one go, what's that set for other developments? So really it's your personal choice from an engineering standpoint. I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You want them or don't want them, but it's your choice.
All right, any other discussion? Anybody else have anything you want to say? You have anything else you want to say?
That's it.
All right, so you understand the motion that's on the table is to deny the request. So all those in favor of denying the request, say aye.
No,
Aye.
it's denying,
No.
it's denying the recommendation. Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
it's denying the
accepting-
request.
It's accepting the recommendation, which was to
Denying the
deny the
request.
request.
Right.
I
Right.
apologize.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
We also have the 24 feet to 20-foot variance that we need.
That was already granted by the zoning.
Zoning hearing board took care of that. for
Okay.
And also in the public hearing, that was dealt with, because it was part of Weber's Corners.
All right, so I don't see anything else on our agenda for any of this. Do we have anything else that we need to deal with on this issue? Hey, good luck.
Thank you.
Let us know if we can do anything else. We appreciate you developing Aleppo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tax collector,
I know it.
thanks for your patience.
Oh, not a problem. So thanks for having me. I passed out version 2.0 of the tax collector treasurer's report here. Basically, what I've done is the very first page, the single page, this is comparing last month's to this month. But in there, I did a lot of trending. So you're comparing it to April of 2015. So the current line is obviously April 2016. The prior April is April 2015. The difference between those two, the percent change. Then the month to month is between the current April and the current March. So it kind of gives you another percent change. That's what you're seeing on this. This is kind of the feeder to doing the graphs and all that other stuff, which is what you have in the other two pages. So what we did, or what I did, and with Glenn's help, is printing this. This 2-page report, you have all of April 2016 tax collection and also all of the account balances for the month. Okay. The graph on the second page is just kind of showing you a visual representation between this year and last year.
Wait, what are the three, series one, series two,
So
series?
series one is April 2016.
Gotcha.
Series two is April 2015. And then series three is March of 2016, I believe.
Gotcha.
And so that's what you're kind of seeing here with the different accounts.
Thank you.
Would you like me to read into the record the tax collection amounts for the month of April and also the ending balances?
Yes,
Account
please.
Balances, okay. So the other sheet that you have, the double page sheet, is just kind of a running for the current year, 2016. This is what I've shown you last month as well, just so you had kind of what's happened throughout the year. So for taxes collected for the month of April, property taxes were $317,636.96. We had 0 delinquent real estate taxes collected. The realty transfer tax for the month of April was $1,408.75. Earned income tax collected for the month was $9,269.81. Local services tax was $490.29. And the business privilege tax was 0 for the month of April. So the total amount taxes collected for the month of April was $328,805.81. Any questions?
Nope. Anybody else have any questions?
Okay, as far as the account balances, what we have, the PNC checking account was $664,534.35. The infrastructure 537 plan was $15,758.29. The liquid fuels account was $75,742.09. The Pliget savings account was $55,229.74. The Pliget Plus savings account was $357,523.64. The Pliget CD investment was $497,000. The Pliget CD interest for this month was 0. The reserve account was $3,264.44. The reserve CD investment account was $100,000. The reserve CD interest for the month was 0. And then the capital improvement, which is the paving truck account, is $66,884.94. So total monies on hand comes into $1,835,937.49. Take out the pledged funds, take out the targeted funds, comes to a total net operating funds of $1,674,287.73. And then down below, the sewer bond funds, the Pliget fund is $337,662.99. The Pliget one fund or I fund is $253,331.88. The Pliget sewer capital account is $36,151.69, and the sewer capital Pliget one account is $2,306.87.
Let me go back to the top one quick one. The earned income tax, why does that vacillate 8/21/25/9?
I think it has to do with when employers send that in. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, you would think that would be relatively straight line.
You would think so. I think it's
Okay.
just the way that, obviously
But
some.
George, look at January, it's off.
Yeah.
too.
No, I know, but I wonder why we go from
I think because some
8/21/25
employers
to
pay
9.
monthly, some pay bi-weekly. I think it's just the way they
Okay.
collect it and send it into us.
Thank you.
Good.
Is
Any other
there
questions?
anything, I guess, that would be most helpful to you guys again?
No, I think this is
in
helpful.
any of this
I like it. I like the grid
information?
charts.
Yeah, it's getting there.
I figured. I mean, do you want to stick with the graphs?
Let's stick with the graph for a short period of time and see what it shows us.
Okay.
Yeah, right
I like the
now,
graph.
right now it doesn't show us much.
No, as I said, it's just so.
It's one number.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yep,
Thanks.
thanks.
Thanks, Clay.
All right. Finance, we have motions on our agenda.
I move the motion to approve the April bill list in the amount of $184,088.73 to ratify April prepaid bills in the amount of $6,798.10 and to ratify April payroll transfers in the amount of $14,999.13.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Before we vote, we talked off the record about the $184,000. Glenn, why is that so high?
There are three large things in that total right now. 100,000 is to the Borough of Sewickley for the fourth and final installment of the tap-in fees. $33,442 is to MRM Property and Liability Trust for annual property insurance. And $17,053.72 is to the Level Township Volunteer Fire Company for the second quarter contract allocation. So those are the three main things that make up a very large chunk of that. The rest of it are standard bills.
So is that to say that by voting to approve these bill lists, you'd be voting to pay the last of the installments to Sewickley?
Unless you want to reword your motion
Okay.
somehow.
Nope, I just wanted to make sure it was clear that we all knew what we were voting for. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Pretty good, huh?
You did well.
At least it
impressive.
was properly titled a tap fee.
All right.
You did well.
Does that make you happy?
I like things to be properly titled.
Do we have a report from the authority?
Nothing at this time.
QB there's a meeting this week. I'm going.
Good.
You want me to go?
'Cause I'm not.
Okay, I'll go this week. Ambulance authority?
Meeting last week, I think actually 2 weeks ago. Last week, I think was EMS week. And I missed my dinner. They have a dinner for us and I didn't go. There's really not a lot that goes on. They have the MRM trust dividends like you have here and received a lot of money. I think I can't tell you the figure, but it has to do with workman's compensation insurance. Is that what it is?
Ours is property and liability, but they could have workers'
Okay, I
comp
think
too.
it's workman's compensation insurance. And it's a great deal, and they got, I think, like $40,000 back on this. And they bought some laptops and some portable radios, and they're on budget, and they continue to stay in the black.
All right. Thank you. Sewer project?
I don't know.
Talk to us about MS4.
Okay, that's a new report that's gonna be on the agenda every month so that we can educate the board and educate the public on the various stormwater requirements that we have to meet. And I met with two other representatives of the Quaker Valley COG, and we're working on developing some COG-wide public outreach documents that we can all share and use for the education component that we have to work on. So that's what, you'll be hearing about that more as the materials are developed and as we get some more public outreach things, we'll be bringing it up.
All right. That's all you have to say? Harlan, I assume you'll hold your report until the executive session. Unfinished business? Anybody have any old business? Hearing none. Anybody have any new business?
Just wanted to announce that we got our MRM property and liability dividend. We got $18,000 back, which is accumulation for a couple of years of no claims. So our policy is $33,000 and we got $18,000 back. It's not year to year, but we end up paying about half. So it's a very good, we've had very good track record, and so we're in a very good insurance program.
Have we advertised in any way the event at Fern Hollow where all Aleppo Township residents are free?
It went out in the digest.
Good.
And a link to the.
And I see the poster on the board.
Yeah, we should say it again. There's a great event coming up to Fern Hollow. We'll put a link in the digest again this week.
June 3rd.
June 3rd. It's free. We've paid for it, so go use it. Anything else? New business? Once, twice, sold.
Under action items, we can eliminate C.
Well, you want to skip A and B, or you just want to talk about C?
No, I can just, C's done. Doesn't
All right.
have to be there anymore.
How are we doing on financial management?
Or
Policy
policies.
samples went out to both George and Art, and they selected, one of the models that they want us to work from to create our own.
Okay. Pension analysis?
We met and talked about that briefly. I have reached out to Pliget to see if they're going to give us a written proposal. Not sure, so I'll see what they have to say.
Okay.
They said they could do it, but they didn't say how.
We finally have one we can scratch off on C, so Gwen, you'll take that off for our next meeting, please.
Yes, it will.
Road bonding, Ben, talk to us about road bonding.
Road bonding, how basics from like the beginning?
Well, no, last time you were here, we talked about road bonding. We said we would sort of punt it until spring or summer.
Okay.
So it's
road-
spring, brother.
Can't tell some days. Road bonding, if you have a lot of overweight hauling in your township, this is a way to make the people doing the hauling liable or responsible for their work. They have to submit a bond that requires the township or the township engineer to go out and inspect the road before they haul, and then inspect it again after they haul to make sure there hasn't been any excess maintenance. Excess maintenance is the key word there. Cracking, rotting, deterioration that is a result of their use, not just general road disrepair, but of their use, hence the inspection before and after. To set this up, you need to do a road bonding ordinance, which typically requires a study. The level of that study is variable. I will look to Harlan to see his opinion. I have to do them correctly. I believe you should do some sort of subsurface investigation. We have also done them without any subsurface investigation, but you need to basically prove that your roads are not suitable to carry heavy loads. How I've done them in the past to save some costs in more rural communities, for all their roads, they had six of 30 roads that they knew were going to get were major haul roads. We did the testing to verify the information on those roads, and from that information, we verified that the other roads would meet that same criteria. Used a lot on tar and chip type roads or very thinly overlaid roads. In Aleppo's case, I think we have a fairly decent roadway history. We should probably do a little bit of subsurface geotechnical work just to make sure to have a baseline to generate this report. When this report is obviously used as if someone were to challenge your ordinance, and that is the backbone. So it's the level of risk comfort that you guys have, that if somebody would come in and challenge your ordinance to make sure it's legal and legit, you have the backbone to stand behind it. The big uptick recently in road bonding was the oil and gas industry, just hammering roads, north central Pennsylvania, and even in other communities I represent here, Jackson Township, Butler County, that we're seeing a lot. Is oil and gas development really a concern right now in Aleppo? I don't think so, but you are on some haul routes, as I understand, to other communities that are seeing some development, mainly residential, maybe even some commercial. So that's kind of the 10-second briefing on road bonding. I don't know, cost-wise, obviously, the geotechnical work varies. I think we've done them from as little as 15,000 to well over 30,000, depending on the length of roads, the amount of testing you want to do. So that's the quick version. Did I miss anything? Do you have any questions on anything else?
What kind of subsurface testing is done?
We typically do pavement cores to get a pavement section, and I've even had to do some sort of bearing capacity. You almost do a pavement analysis to figure out the strength of the road, and kind of back calculate it. On a typical pavement analysis, you know your bearing capacity and you design a roadway section to meet the traffic loading. Here, you're trying to see what you have to verify what loading that road could have. So typically it's a 10-ton weight limit, but sometimes they may be 15 or higher. The biggest thing I see in road bonds is you see a bonding on a bridge that says, bridge weight limit X. They're not really apples to apples, because on that bridge, if you go over that weight limit, the bridge could fail and collapse. The road it's still kind of the same thing. If it's overweight, the road could fail, but not be the catastrophic collapse that you would see in a bridge. So you can kind of compare that thought, but there is a little bit of a difference there.
Is there a design load capacity for town roads?
There is a pavement, PennDOT approved pavement, multiple PennDOT approved pavement design standards.
What is it?
There's Darwin, there's multiple, but you look at bearing capacity, pavement thickness, and easel counts, which easel is an axle load on a truck. So a car doesn't really count, but on a dump truck, that would be so many easels.
How does this concept fit into the roads that are owned by the county that we maintain? Are we responsible for, no,
We plow them.
right?
and Salt them, but for all the maintenance responsibility,
So
Yes,
Deer
we
Run is
depend on-
excluded from this conversation.
that's state. Glen Mitchell is county. Glenfield Road is county in our portion, like in the Aleppo section,
So what roads are we even talking about? And what roads are,
North Redgate.
state,
Scaife?
not ours.
Not ours.
I was gonna bring Art up to speed a little bit. This conversation initiated because we had heard rumor or realized that people were avoiding other weight limit roads coming through
Yeah,
Aleppo.
Through ours, yeah.
yeah, but they're doing that on roads that are not ours.
That
Yeah.
perhaps aren't ours. Where were you headed, Dan, that we just used when you asked about the county or the PennDOT?
I was trying to understand what weight limit we would be the beginning for having to have a bond. That obviously is tied to what the design standards are for the road, what its bearing capacity is expected to be or designed to be. If you're within that capacity, I wouldn't expect you would require somebody to bond.
Typically, they-
I've fought over road bonding issues for a couple oil and gas clients because, I mean, that's what local towns use to prevent them from bringing the big trucks through. And I mean, their roads weren't built to handle those kind of vehicles anyway.
Right, and that's what I've seen recently, in Butler County with the oil and gas is, for the most part, the oil and gas community realizes that they're just gonna destroy the road and they work, to fix it when they're done. through
Right.
Some sort of
We'll build you a new one when we leave.
Right, I will tell you now with the current oil and gas price, that attitude is quickly changed. And it wasn't a legal battle yet, but I had some discussions with a local pipeline development company that just wasn't willing to fix the road, and there was some disagreement as to what was excess maintenance. So, 5-6 years ago, it was whatever, we'll put it in when we're done. Now they're watching a little closer.
So back to Matt's question, what roads are we talking about?
Like McCoy, Weber.
Yeah,
Swickley Heights
I mean,
Drive?
yeah.
Weber, where are you gonna go on Weber?
you can get to Osborne through Weber.
That's how.
You can get to, you think they're gonna be dragging,
Going down.
On the Sycamore?
Sycamore.
That's
Close.
where the
I'm not
conversation
saying
started,
they're gonna
is
use those.
people
roads.
complained
They're not
about
gonna use
trucks on
them.
Weber, but
Can I ask Public Works?
Where
We
would
got a
they?
lot of, they built 3 houses up in Tegakay.
up where?
Tegakay, which is Glen Osborne.
Yeah.
All right, all the truck traffic came up our roads, heavy loads.
Yeah, that's,
And I mean, there's cracks in the roads. I mean, added to the cracks, there was cracks in the roads before. They ran off the berms of the road into the dirt and stuff. I mean, it's,
So what
That's
roads are a
dumb.
priority for this type of ordinance in your mind?
well, I mean, you got Weber, Ferndale, and the Weber extension, which comes into Sycamore extension. It's all one. And then South McCoy's been getting a lot of truck traffic. McCoy, South McCoy, with that new house they built, they're trucking dirt in again.
how about Merriman, our portion of Merriman?
Of course, Merriman, well, right now, it's been idle, but I mean, when
Right.
the soil
In the
starts
future,
back
right.
up, you're gonna get heavy trucks again.
but
Right.
have you seen a lot of damage from this?
Well, you're getting added cracks to the roads, yeah, and then, it just takes its toll out over time, and I mean, like Weber took a beating, like, all they got left is one lot up there now.
Up in that, yeah, that development.
So I mean, the road is taking its toll with the heavy trucks.
Harlan, I've seen this approach on a couple of my developing communities, and it's not necessarily more as a road bond issue. It's more of a, you're gonna build 400 houses, we know you're gonna blow our road apart, so we want you to improve it up to that point. So it's, kind of a twofold thing. It sounds like Masonic Village is one of the major concerns, because that's probably one of the larger developments going on. And any development in the township that would be of large scale, could we put a road bond or a road improvement in the developer's agreement as part of the concern?
I was gonna say, we already do that, and we've done that consistently with Masonic. They've always agreed to enter into an excess maintenance agreement with us, and it's always been successful. So that has been our approach. We make that a requirement of the developer's agreement, that they enter into these excess maintenance agreements.
And that's what I'm seeing, as these farm communities develop, the development might be a half mile up the road. We know you're gonna blow it apart to get to your development. Once everything is built, all the roads or whatever, you bring the road up to this standard, and they know right up front, so they can put it in their model. I don't know if something like that might work here. If it's very isolated, if we think it's only gonna be this road or that road or this road, that might be another way around the full-blown ordinance.
And just do it on a developer
There
project
aren't going to
basis.
be any developments.
But do you have to verify the
Except
condition
this
of the
one.
road, still do the borings in that process of the
I think-
developer's agreement?
In that process, you just want to do, we typically take a GoPro video on the front of the vehicle.
Okay,
And have a video record.
Do video before video.
because you want to have a baseline.
Correct. Because that is your documentation if you're in court.
I kind of like that approach in our situation.
I mean, it sounds like you only have a couple roads and they'll be isolated. I mean, the other argument I've had, and I've heard it multiple ways, local delivery doesn't count, or it does count. So if I'm getting a truckload of concrete at my house, I don't need to bond the road. I know some townships tend to take that a little more lenient or a little more stringent. But if you're starting to chase every truck delivering mulch or something, it becomes hard. And from a police standpoint, I don't believe you could enforce overweight trucking without the ordinance.
Correct.
You
So-
can publicly report that. What? The score.
Do nothing.
Do nothing pens.
6 minutes left in the first period.
It's early.
My
Do
inclination,
nothing,
Ben,
Supreme Court.
is in our particular situation, using the specific developers agreement makes sense.
But how's
Does
that
that
gonna,
make sense?
how's that
Dan,
gonna
you've
fix
got
the
a lot more
problem of,
experience.
how's that gonna fix the problem of their developing roads and their developing houses in Osborne?
It's not.
But that's done. That's done.
Yeah, but
There's one lot left, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot already
I mean, it's done.
after the fact. So, I mean.
So you're not going to do it now.
I get that, but I'm saying.
Yeah.
You haven't solved the problem that you started talking about. All right, well, this is on our action items list.
Yeah.
So we said that we were gonna hold this off until spring or summer to talk about it again. We've talked about it again. Does anybody have any action they want to take with respect to road bonding or propose? Otherwise, it's just.
I would like to discuss it further with Tom outside of this meeting. I think he has the most input, and as the head of public works, I'd like to do that.
All right, so why don't you just change our road bonding note here to George and Tom to discuss? Please, thank you. Industrial park occupancy, anything else on road bonding? Industrial park occupancy,
On
still haven't sorted that out, huh?
It should be in until we find out who bought the property. And Harlan is the only person right now that has.
I haven't had a chance to,
And
Okay,
he just
okay.
but I can tell you,
leave it there for a moment.
we did get the releases back from Sun Life.
Yeah.
The assumption was that they hadn't closed and that they still owned the property. So I don't know that there's been a closing.
And is there a major tenant leaving
I don't know about that.
FedEx.
August?
They're opening a new building in August. Their lease runs through August of 2017. But we were the ones who told Oxford Development that they were planning on leaving. Because they have a big sign outside that says, new building opening. So, but they're under lease for another year and a half, so.
But that's a big loss.
it is a big one.
All right, well, we'll be interested to hear about that Glen Mitchell Road cleanup. Gwen and I will go look at that this week, and we'll talk to you about that next month. Anything else?
Yes, we have one thing then
Correct.
that we forgot to bring up during Public Works.
We HRG were asked to look at completing a repair of a line in Swiftly Heights Manor, storm line, 15-inch. We came up with a solution of lining and went out and requested quotes. We requested 4 quotes, only received 1 back. Insight Pipe, local lining firm,
$12,000.
Do I recall, is that within budget?
Yes. Very similar to the estimate that we had provided.
with it being a lining contract, not every contractor can do that. We solicited 2 local, Insight and Robinson Pipe Lining, and then 2 out of town. Protec was 1, and another firm out of Washington DC. And Insight Pipe was below. I have experience working with them. They do quality work. I think everything should go well.
So this is a good price and a quality contract.
Correct. And I set a date of June 20th with the thought trying to get that work done prior to any improvements being done. Don't laugh at my sketch. I was trying to.
Is this them or you?
That's me. I was trying to
Okay,
be
I
low
was gonna
budget.
say, this isn't the bidder, is it?
No, I was being low budget on this one, trying to keep the cost down because the cost of the project wasn't real high.
So is there a motion to accept this bid? Somebody, anybody, let's go, the game's on.
So moved. Seconded.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion
Thanks.
carries, bid is
Thanks, Ben.
accepted. Thank you. Okay, any other, action items, new business?
Citizens.
Citizen participation.
Hi, I'm Lanny Gartner, Masonic Village.
Hello.
Hello. I have been collecting information on the history of Aleppo Township. I still don't know why it was named that. But I also have the original 2005, which has to be revised. If you want to go this way with the publicity itself, I suggested you might get Mr. Minnick to help pay for it in Masonic Village and so forth and so on if you want to do it. So sometime I'd like to meet with some people who are interested in this and see what we can start.
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Rod Gartner, Masonic Village. What's the status of the Vesuvius ownership? Do they own it yet? Are they proceeding? Doesn't seem to be anything happening.
They own it. I mean, we.
Vesuvius has always owned it. The paper company or printing company was in there with lessee. So it's now vacant. As far as I know, that's going to be their corporate research and development. And, but I haven't seen any activity around the building for the last couple of weeks. There's not a change, there's no change in ownership that I know.
I didn't
Vesuvius bought it
realize that
about
they owned
2
it.
years ago.
Yeah.
And the paper company did own it before that, and Vesuvius came through all the approval processes.
Yeah, they were in here
Conditional use.
for,
They're an international company, so some of their approvals are much slower in coming. Been in touch with Ken Fox, the guy who represents them, and it's just, they're working on it.
Thank you.
anybody else? All right, with that, we are adjourned. Go Pens.
You want
Thank
to
you,
get
everybody.
executive session?
Oh,
Shoot.
It's very quick.
well,
It's quick.
Give me 2 minutes and don't ask me any questions.
No questions.
Ask me no